Hi, this is Dawn of StampTillDawn.com, and this is being recorded just before May 2024, and I'm showing off the grand opening special I'm running for May as I transition from Close to My Heart, which is closing their doors, to Stampin' Up. So when you spend $50 on my website, which is on the little post-it note up here, dawn.stampinup.net, or you can purchase this kit for $20. Now, if you purchase it and you're local, message me because you can get a little discount if you want to pick it up. That way I don't have to mail it. So you can either purchase a kit for $20 or get it for free when you spend $50. Such a deal, right? I'm going to be using a few Stampin' Up supplies. My supplies are limited right now, but I'm going to use this Simply Said stamp set. I'm using the Hello, the Happy Birthday, and the Birthday Wishes from this stamp set with a black Memento pad. I'm using one of my new favorites. I've always admired these and I'm super excited. These are the Stampin' Dimensionals that you can use to pop up items. And I am also using these gems. Now I'm putting gems in your kit, but if these gems sell out, because I think they were low when I was looking at it, and I'm not allowed to order until May 1st. So if for some reason I can't get these, I'll substitute something else. Same with the ribbon. I ran out of this ribbon right here, and if I need to make more kits, I will substitute. I'll try to find that ribbon, but I'll substitute something. And then you're also going to get a paper bag, and that's because if you've seen my silly video about the number of paper bags I have, I've decided I'm going to go with it, and I'm going to have a project each month, like a challenge. So I'm going to show you something fun to do with this that you can use your extra papers on. And let me show you what's in the kit. So it's going to come inside this little pocket right here. Everything will be pre-cut for you. So there's one card right there, the next one, third card, your envelopes. These are the pieces for the stuffed envelope project. And then you'll have these 5 pieces left over that you can recreate any of the cards that I've done, or maybe use it on the paper bag challenge. So with that, let's go on to the next video where I'm going to show you how to put together card number 1. Okay, here's card number 1 from my May 2024 card kit, and I'm just going to show you some tips as I assemble it. So you'll get everything in your kit that is pictured here, and it's pretty easy to just assemble it. So I'm going to use my adhesive. You can use your adhesive of choice. I often use the Tombow adhesive. I really like that because it sticks really well, but it's a little harder on camera. So I'm just going to use my tape runner today. I'm going to lay that on there. And then the cool thing about this card is that it's a great way to show both sides of the paper. So if there's ever a paper where you're like, oh, I can't bear to put glue on that, then this card would be great for you. So the base is 5.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4, so that when this flap goes in, it's your standard size card. So what I'm going to do is put my designer series paper onto this card and line it up so it's lined up well, and then put some adhesive on this edge over here, and then fold the edge down, and that way everything's nice and neat and lined up. And then I'm going to take my other designer series paper and put some adhesive on here and put it on this flap. This card goes together really quick, even if you have to cut your paper yourself. It's not a hard one. And I got all of these pieces out of one piece of 6 by 6. So since I showed the stripe there, I think, and the stripes here, I'm going to put the flower side up on this. So again, and I take a little more care with my adhesive when I'm not doing it on camera. Okay. And then now all that's left is to stamp this image, add our bow and gems. I am going to use this Birthday Wishes stamp from the Simply Said stamp set. I've already put it on a block. And I like to remind people that, especially as we're switching companies and brands, you might be used to Stampin' Up or some other brand that you've used. So always test your stamp. This is a thicker lined stamp, and so I might twist it a little bit and then tap it. If I twist and then stamp, it'll leave the swirls in it. But if I twist a little bit to make sure I get it on all the surfaces and then tap it to even it out, and then test it on your scratch paper. See how much pressure it takes to do it. and whether you need to adjust that. I've also got some foam, one of those fun foams underneath me. My table is nice and sturdy, so it'll stamp well without it, but you might need this foam, or if you have some from Close to My Heart sets, you could stick this underneath you. I really like to do like the black color, because when you go to line it up on something like this, you can clearly see the edges of the stamp, and so that way you can really see how to put your stamp on there and center it. And there we go. We have a nice clean image. So now you just glue this here, add a glue dot for your bow. I am not putting gems on mine because I want to make sure I save gems for everybody else's kits, and I'm worried I'm going to run out. So that is card number 1. Okay, I'm here with card number 2 from my May 2024 card kit. And this one's a fun way to use a little strips of paper, but also show off a lot of colors. So these are the in colors. There's just one color, Summer Splash, is not on here. But these are the in colors for 2024 to 2026. Did I say that right? I'm learning all this Stampin' Up stuff. So I'm going to put together the front of the card first. So your pieces will be all pre-cut, and then you can lay them out. And if you don't like the order I put it in, or if you want to flip it over and use a different pattern, you're welcome to do that. It's your card. You can make it your own. See what you prefer. But I recommend that you lay them all out first, kind of get them situated, and kind of try to put them as even as possible with the black between them, how much black is between each piece. And I'm doing this on camera, so I'm bound to make a mistake. But you know what? It's handmade, so you know, you do what you do, and people will love that you thought of them and sent them a card. So, speaking of which, I like to send cards. It's my new thing. I'm doing it on Mondays. I'm calling it Happy Mail Mondays, and every Monday my goal is to send out some cards. So I've got that placed pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and put my adhesive on the pieces and put them on there. I'm using tape runner on the video today. If you are more economical, or I really like using, in fact I'll use it on the rest of these pieces, I like using the Tombow mono adhesive when I do stuff. You just don't want to put a ton of adhesive on here. Hopefully, yeah, sometimes I leave my cap off too long and it gets a little bit on the edge there. There we go. So put a little bit, and this is why my tip gets clogged, because I'm always spreading it around with the tip, so I don't have too much in one area. And then we'll place it on there. I really like the Tombow mono adhesive. I feel like it is stronger, it stays together better. You know, when you're doing scrapbooks, they're inside your sleeves of your scrapbook, and they're not getting handled as much. And you know, especially if you're generous with the tape runner, it works out well. But cards are different. Cards and boxes and bags, they're being handled, and the pressure points are being touched. And so I find that the liquid glue is a little bit more strong and can withstand that a little bit better. Now hopefully I kept my spacing right and this is still gonna fit. Yay. I was a little worried there for a minute. The other thing about the liquid glue is that you can adjust it. So I was kind of sliding that around a little bit to get it in the spot that I wanted. So that's another fun thing about using a liquid adhesive. And if you're wondering why mine doesn't have its label on it, it's because, I don't know, it was irritating me one day. It was halfway on, halfway off, so I ripped it off. So, okay, now the next piece is you have this to go together. So what I found is if I put this one on first and then do this one on top of it, that it goes together the best and is easiest to work with the glue. So I'm going to put a little glue on my scallop here. I used some die cuts that I already had, and you'll notice that with those of us who came from Close to My Heart, Stampin' Up is giving us an opportunity to use a variety of products together as we build out our stash of products, because you know, you can imagine, I've been doing this for 29 years. It's going to be hard to suddenly switch everything over. But that's also good for my customers because you have been purchasing from me from close to my heart, and you have things that you can use along with the new products from Stampin' Up. So we'll just do this together, and we'll combine things from our stash with the Stampin' Up products and make cool combinations of stuff. This is a Cricut cut I just did on the Cricut, and I'm going to use the Happy Birthday stamp set from the Simply Said stamp set. And this is a smaller, like on the first video I did like a thicker lined stamp, and this one is smaller. And so again, I always encourage everybody, the first time you're stamping with a stamp, test it out. So this is just going to require some gentle but firm pressure. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, right? But you don't want to just like go like that. Well, it actually worked, but it's a little blurry. But if you push too hard on a fine lined thing, then it can be, you can see how it has some like blur around it. So just practice with it and do firm pressure, but even, and you'll get a nice stamped image. And again, I do have foam underneath me to help with stamping it. So I'll ink it up, and hopefully I'm doing this straight. It's totally crooked, I think. Oh, not too bad. It's your eyes. Your eyes are crooked. And so then I can pop that on there and then use one of my favorite things. I am super excited about this as part of the transition. I love these Stampin' Dimensionals. They're really thin, so they're not going to be too thick when you mail it, and then it's super easy to get them off of here and put them on your project. I think that might be the thing I was most excited about when I was thinking about what I was going to use from Stampin' Up. I know it's silly, but I put dimensionals on everything, so that made me happy. And then you can add the gems. I will put gems in your kits, but I'm worried about running out, so I'm not going to put it on this card. So that is card number 2. Okay, now we're going to work on card number 3 in my May 2024 card kit. And so we've got all our pieces in here. I'm going to do a little stamping first before I assemble the card. It's always nice to like decorate the inside of your card as well as the envelope. In fact, I'll pull the envelope out and we'll do that too. So I've got the envelope and the card here. And now I'm still transitioning, so I'm using colors from close to my heart that go well with the Stampin' Up colors. So this is Pecan Pie, and I have Raspberry and Green Apple here. So you could look at colors that you have already, or get colors that Stampin' Up has to stamp and go along with things. So this, I'm going to stamp this flower. This is a Stampin' Up stamp, but it is a retired one, I believe. So I'm going to stamp it in the corner. And then I'm going to do a couple of leaves. And just this little bit of stamping adds a little bit of pop to your card and a little surprise when you open it up and it's not totally plain in there. Sometimes I get busy and I don't do this, but I'm always happiest when I do take the time to add that in there. So just nice little color in there. And now let's put the card together. This is a super easy one. So this is cut from a 6x6 piece of paper, and it's just a great way to get a cute little card. It's quick and easy. So I cut a 4x4 out of it, and then there was like a 2-inch piece right here, right? So I cut a 1-inch piece. We're using the other 1-inch piece, or we used it on this other card that was over here. So there's that other 1-inch piece. And then there was still a 2-inch piece here, which we used for this. So it's kind of a fun card where you can basically get almost 2 cards out of it. But you notice I have this gap here, and I had some options about moving it up or moving it down. What I ended up doing was cutting this to go right there. So let's assemble the card. Put a little on the edge. You don't need a lot of glue. A little goes a long way. And sometimes when I push it on here, I'll kind of like scooch it a little bit to spread that glue out to other areas. Put that on there. And then we'll do our 1-inch piece. And a little squishing and moving to spread the glue out. And I didn't pre-cut this. You can decide if you want it to go all the way across from one edge to one edge, or if you want it to line up with the paper. I think I lined it up with the paper on the other one, so I'm going to just kind of center it and do it across the whole thing. On this one, do it a little bit different. And this way you can kind of get your scallops to line up better. You can kind of see that works out pretty well. The little up part right there is on either end. Do your best to like cover that gap, but since it's white on white, nobody's gonna really notice it too much. And then you can go and clip it from the back. Okay. Now I had done some little white dots on my sample. I'm not sure I'm loving that. I don't know, it stood out a little more than I wanted to, but you can manipulate your flower. This is an old die cut that I used, old close to my heart die cut. You could substitute any kind of die cut or a cricket flower on there, or you could even like stamp an image, add a little piece right here and stamp something on there. I'm super limited on my supplies, as are many of my customers who haven't been Stampin' Up customers before. So we're kind of showing you some different things that you can do. I'm looking for my Stampin' Dimensionals. Oh, I had them right here because I've been doing the other cards. Have you ever noticed like it gets to be a mess, right? When you just, everything explodes when you're on there. So I'm just putting it in the middle because I want to tuck the leaves underneath it, and that's really plenty to hold that there and kind of adds some dimension. And then the leaves, I cut it so that you have one dark, this is the two-tone cardstock, which Stampin' Up is supposed to be, they're going to add it to their product line. And then in May and June, there's going to be some that are close to my heart colors that are coming over. But eventually they'll add it into the Stampin' Up line with the Stampin' Up colors. So I did one dark and one light just to add some texture to it. And then you can just kind of fold them a little bit. Just give them a little oomph so they don't just sit flat on there. So I'm going to put one flat, put a little glue on it, and tuck it under there. And I'll put a dimensional on this other one, kind of lift it up a little. And tuck it under. So it's a subtle difference, but it helps. So now you can decide, maybe I put a gem there or something. I wasn't digging that, but maybe you guys like it better than me and it's just me being too critical. And then I'm pulling another stamp from the Simply Said Stampin' Up set and stamping the hello from that on here. Now, before I did this here, I did stamp it on a test piece of paper to make sure it was going to show up. It's always good to make sure the color is going to show up. And then I added some gems, and you'll have gems in your kit that you can add to it. And oh, I said let's do the envelope too, right? I set that aside. Let's stamp our envelope. I should have done it when I had the stamps open before. Just thought of it right now. I could put the hello on here too. So I don't know why, but I always go to this one corner. Maybe because I'm right-handed, couldn't tell you. But adding just a little bit. Now you don't want to do too much decoration because the post office does use some of it for stuff. And then I could put the little hello. We'll tuck it right there. How cute is that? Wouldn't you love to see that in the mail? So you can pop it. See, now I want the white dots on there. What do you guys think? White dots or no? Or what would you put there? And then so cute to send that to somebody on maybe Happy Mail Monday. Okay, this is the fourth project in my May 2024 kit. And this is like, you can call it loaded pockets or stuffed envelopes. But there's basically two envelopes here that you can put little things inside, little tags. And then there's also a pocket here where like I've put some decorative elements or twine or different things. You could just fill it up with candy. So it's up to your imagination as to what you put in there. Now I did not cut or score your 6x6 pieces for this. I wanted to give you the opportunity to decide which side you wanted to go out, and then maybe even you wanted to use some of the leftover papers that were in your kit and do some completely different colors. So you'll need 2 6x6s. You'll need a 4x4, which this comes in your kit. I believe this is 3x4. This is for the tag in the back. And then this one's 2.5x3. And then I cut a couple of borders just to help you add stuff. It would be really cute if you took little scrap papers from your kit and added other little embellishments on there, maybe little dovetailed ends or something like that. So we're going to set this aside and we're going to work with our 6x6 first. And you're going to need some kind of scoring tool or a paper trimmer. And you're going to score the first. Now these are not one directional prints, so it doesn't matter which way I do it. But you're going to score it at 1 inch and 5 inch. And once you make one, I recommend using a non-directional print the first time. That way, once you make it, you can kind of understand which way you would want to turn it and score it if you had a one directional print. And then score at 1.5 and 4. We'll repeat that on this one. We're going to score at 1 inch and 5 inch. Rotate it and score at 1.5 and 4. Okay, so now I like to just kind of fold mine up to kind of see where the crease lines are. So this is my top, it's the shorter one, and then this is the bottom. So that's how you can tell the difference. This is the top flap and this is the bottom. And then let's score the sides. And then we're going to cut. So what I like to do is fold this one up right here, because if I just cut this notch out, this little piece is left over. You'll see what I mean. So I go right along this edge, cut into there, and also on this edge, cut from the edge to the score line, and then you're going to cut this piece out. So we'll go ahead and cut that. And cut that. So I'm cutting along the score line, and then also you're going to cut this part out right here. So I'm going to cut from the bottom along the score line up to this score line here, and then it's nice to take a little bite out of it. Instead of cutting straight on the score line, go above it and take a little pie bite out of there. This will help when things fold in. It'll reduce the bulk that's there. And let's do the same thing on this other side. And there you've got the basics of your envelope. So we're going to repeat it one more time because we have another envelope we're going to make. So just, I wanted to make sure, like I have this pattern out, so I'm going to make sure that the dotted pattern's out on this one so that they're a little bit different. Wasn't paying attention to where my scores were there. Okay, so same thing, I'm going to fold the bottom so the top is shorter, that one's shorter, so this one's longer, so this is the bottom. Cut along this edge to the score line and take this top part out. Cut along this. And then you're going to cut this piece out down here too. So cut along your score line, up to the score line. Then take a little bite. And I kind of missed the score line there a little bit. When you fold it up, and it's hard for me because I'm trying not to stick my head in the camera, but you can always, after you fold it, if there's a place to where it's catching, you can cut a little bit more out of there. Okay, hard part's done. Envelopes are done. So now I put a little bit of Tombow, and I put it on this flap, these flaps right here. So we'll just put a little on there. And what's fun is just to stick a block on it, like, so you can move on to something else, so that can weight it down. So if you have a big block, you can just stick a block on there. Helps me keep from getting glue on my hands too when I do that. Now you can leave it the way it is, or you can cut little flaps if you want, or you can use a corner rounder to kind of round off those corners on there. And then once I rounded the corners to kind of make everything go together, I also rounded the corners on the pieces that we're going to use for the tags. So I just did the top two edges of it just to kind of round it. Again, you could cut it to be like a tag. You could use a die cut to cut a cute tag that has a roughly edge. But since we're transitioning from Close to My Heart to Stampin' Up, I was trying to limit the things that I was using that are no longer available, because since Close to My Heart's going out of business, a lot of the stuff I have isn't available, and then I haven't been able to purchase much from Stampin' Up yet. So I was trying to limit that. I use my Cricut a lot to do things, so you could always do that. Okay, this is the trickiest part, so I want you to pay really close attention to this. You are going to glue your top one first, okay? So decide which one you want on the top. I think I'm going to put my pink one on there. And if you want to have a pocket between here, then you need to not glue the whole thing. So if you want a pocket, you just need to put the glue along these three edges. And you want to do it pretty close to the edge. Have enough that it's going to stick, but not a ton, so that it smushes in and takes up the space where you could stick a tag or something. And then you'll place this one on, line your score line up with the 4x4. And once that's dry, I don't want to mess with it right now, but there is still a pocket right there. And then the same thing with your second one. So if you want a pocket between these two envelopes, you could glue it flat, but then you're not going to have that extra pocket right there. So put a little glue along the edge of the envelope. Just the bottom and the sides, and then put it on here. The other reason you do the top one first is so that it fits on there correctly. And if you did the bottom one, then you wouldn't be able to stick the top one in behind it. So we'll let that set for a few minutes while we're working on our tags. Now you could leave your tags the way they are, but I pulled out some stamps again from that, I think it's a retired set. Everything is Rosy, Stampin' Up set. I pulled a couple of flowers out of there. And I'm using, this is Lagoon paper and this is ballerina paper. And it's so nice that it complements the Stampin' Up in colors here. So I can go ahead and use up the stash of stuff that I have. So you can go through and look through your stash and see if there's other colors that you can mix in here that would look well. And since this is two-toned cardstock, I'm going to do the light side. And I picked this stamp out of there, and I'm just going to stamp a little border along the bottom. I'm going to stamp it once and then lower it a little bit and stamp it again. It's important if you do this technique that you lower it, because there's going to be a definite line right here where I went off the paper, and if I bring it up, you'll see that line in your image. So, in fact, let me do it. So you can kind of tell there's a line right there. So just stamp it and then stamp it again. Sometimes you can get 3 stamps out of it, and it just adds some texture to have some lights and darks in there. And then I picked out a saying from that set to put at the top of mine. So I'll just use the Memento ink to put it on here. Stamp a little saying at the top. And you could write a handwritten note here. You could also put some ephemera, and I don't know if I say that right, but you could put little stickers. You could do anything on here. So there's the back tag. And then on this one, on my sample, I did some flowers, and I wanted to do something a little bit different this time. So that kind of was like busy, but it's fine. I could write in ink on top of it, but I just wanted to try something different. And that stamp set had these little dots, and I'm just a sucker for dots. And so I just do a little subtle background on here. You might not even be able to see this on the camera. And to do this, you do like little triangles. So I have 2 there, so I'll put 1 between it. There's 2 there, so put 1 between it. It's kind of a tricky way to cover your paper randomly, but not randomly. There, so I have a nice little subtle background on that tag. And so then you would put your bows. You can use glue dots to put your bows on there. And then you are all, oh, I also have given you some borders. So you can decide where you want to put a border, if you want to put it here or along the bottom. I also have this daisy chain border. So you'll see in the picture the sample of where I put it, but maybe you find someplace else. And then there's a extra piece left over, so you could always stick it on something else. So super cute. And then you have these pieces here that you cut off. You could turn them into little dovetailed things on there. So if you wanted to add even more. With this kind of project, the more you add, almost the cuter it is. So you could put that on there. Just keep adding and make it your own. I'd love to see what you end up doing with it. And so now you can stick your tags in here, fill it up with other goodies, and you're all set. So I'd love to see how yours turned out, and especially if you added something different or used different colors. So the last project in my May 2024 kit, you've already done the cards and the stuffed envelopes or loaded envelopes. This one's a challenge project. So you're going to use the leftover papers that you have in your kit. Let's see if I can unearth those. Here's a sample of what you should have left over. You're going to use these leftover, and you might have little pieces you cut off from other items that you can use, and you're going to make a cute little paper bag thing. So I did this on my live or my Zoom the other day, and so they're little pockets. This is a larger one. We're going to do a little mini version of this. So there's one sample. You can add flowers to it, and here's a black and white sample that I worked on. So I'm going to show you how to put the bag together, and then you can use whatever papers you want, and I hope that you'll post it. I think it'll be super fun if each month people post what they did on the challenge project that I give them. So I'm folding back the paper bag on top of itself here. And then that way I know where to cut this piece right here. So I'm going to cut it on the line. Now you might have to fuss with this a couple times because you'll notice that little pieces will stick out, and you'll have to trim it because it gets in the way when they're folding. So you don't have to be super precise the first time, but you just want to make sure that you can get into there. So now I've got a little extra here, so I'll trim some of this, but I don't want to cut all the way through to the front of the bag. So it's almost better if you don't cut it perfectly and then come back in to do some of this cleanup and fussy cutting. And you're going to cover it so it doesn't matter if it's perfectly straight. So now what you'll do is you'll fold this bag up, and I like to make sure it can tuck under here. If you can put a piece of Velcro or something there. In fact, I just remembered I didn't mention that on the loaded pockets, that you could close the pockets with a piece of Velcro. So there's the bag, and then you have room there to put a little piece of Velcro. And then there's a pocket right here and a pocket right here. So if you glue this to the bag, I moved stuff between takes and I'm not seeing my glue. There it is. I was trying to clean up my mess. Okay, so put a little glue on there and close that up. Let that set up a bit, and then when you open it, you can get both pockets. So you can put little goodies or tags or something in there. So again, here is a couple of samples. Here's the black and white one I did. And I put like a little border right there. And here's the other one I did. This is close to my heart paper from a constant campaign, and this is retired Stampin' Up paper. I believe it's retired. I don't know what anything is. So I hope you'll post your challenge project and have fun with the May kit.